The moment he walked into the restaurant, the air changed. Not because he was handsome, not because he was powerful, but because he carried his arrogance like a weapon. Everyone knew who he was. Adrian Vale, billionaire CEO, the kind of man people whispered about, the kind of man whose presence made entire rooms straighten. He sat at the corner table without looking at a single soul. No greeting, no nod, not even eye contact. His assistant hovered near him nervously, clutching a tablet. "Sir, the waitress is coming." "I don't talk to service people," Adrian said coldly. "You handle it." The words hit the floor like broken glass. The waitress walking toward him heard every one of them. Her name was Hana. Simple ponytail, simple uniform, simple smile. But her eyes held stories nobody bothered to ask about. She reached the table, pen ready. "Good evening, sir. Can I?" Adrian lifted his hand sharply, stopping her mid-sentence. "I don't talk to low-class staff," he said without looking up. "Tell me your manager. I only deal with people who matter." Hana froze, just for a heartbeat, then steadied herself with a soft breath. His assistant's face went pale. "Sir, she's the one taking our order, please." "I don't care," Adrian said, eyes glued to his phone. "She can write what I say without me acknowledging her. Isn't that what these people are paid for?" These people. The phrase stung the air, but Hana didn't break. Instead, she smiled. A slow, gentle, dangerously calm smile. "Very well, sir. What would you like?" Adrian didn't look at her. He recited his order like reading a grocery list. Seared salmon, extra lemon, and sparkling water. Imported, not local cheap. Hana interrupted him softly, in a language he did not expect. A language he hadn't heard outside private lessons since childhood. A language only a few elite families in his home country still spoke. A language Adrian Vale believed no low-class person could ever know. AP ki pazan ka kana tayar karvea jayega, lekan agrabi harkat karna zaruri nahi hoda, sahib. He froze. Completely. The phone slipped slightly from his hand. Because what she said wasn't just fluent. It was precise, elegant, native level. "Your preferred dish will be prepared. But behaving arrogantly isn't necessary, sir." Adrian lifted his eyes, slowly, like he was afraid of what he'd see. Hana stood tall, her expression soft but unshaken, pen poised above her notepad. "How?" Adrian's voice cracked. "How do you speak that language?" Hana tilted her head. "What language, sir?" "The one you think only wealthy people deserve to know." He stared at her. Really stared. For the first time, he saw her. Not a waitress. Not service people. A woman who carried something he didn't expect. A secret that cut straight through his pride. "Answer me," he whispered, breath uneven. "Where did you learn it?" But she didn't give him the satisfaction of an explanation. She simply wrote down his order slowly, neatly, with quiet confidence. Then she added softly, in the same elegant tongue, "Esan ki bolihar insan samajda hai, agar dil saf ho." Every human understands the language of respect, if their heart is clean. Adrian felt heat crawl up his neck. Embarrassment, shock, and something else he didn't know how to name. His assistant stared at Hana like she had just rewritten the laws of the universe. Hana turned gracefully, ready to walk back to the kitchen, but paused just long enough to drop one more soft sentence over her shoulder. "Aap kizandagi main bohat kam log hanjo sachboln, kiamat rakti hain. Shayad isi waja se, ap suntnai." There are very few people in your life brave enough to speak the truth to you. Maybe that's why you don't listen. And with that, she walked away. Silent, calm, unstoppable, leaving Adrian Vale, speechless, humiliated, and more curious about a waitress than he had ever been about $1 million deal. Because nothing in his perfect, powerful world prepared him for her. Adrian Vale wasn't used to feeling anything he couldn't control. But right now, his heartbeat felt uneven. His palms felt warm. His thoughts were a mess he couldn't organize. He stared at the table long after Hana disappeared into the kitchen, her final words echoing through his mind like a stone dropped into still water. There are very few people in your life brave enough to speak the truth to you. Maybe that's why you don't listen. No one spoke to him like that. Not board members. Not investors. Not family. People apologized to him, feared him, counted his breaths before daring to speak. But a waitress? She cut straight through him, with grace so sharp it didn't need to be loud. His assistant shifted nervously. "Sir, are you okay?" Adrian didn't answer. He kept replaying her voice. Her fluency. Her confidence. How could someone like her, someone he dismissed without a single glance, carry a language that belonged to his bloodline? His father spoke it. His grandfather guarded it. It was the tongue of power, tradition, prestige. Not of waitresses. Not of low-class staff. He felt heat crawl up his neck again, a mix of humiliation and curiosity burning through his ribs. His assistant cleared his throat. Sir, maybe she studied abroad? Adrian finally spoke, voice low. No, you don't learn that dialect abroad. You learn it from inside the culture. Inside the circles most people can't touch. He swallowed. Only 3 private academies even teach that level. His assistant blinked. So she's educated. Extremely, Adrian murmured. The truth stung. Because he had treated her like she was beneath basic courtesy, while she'd spoken a language he had spent years failing to master. The kitchen doors swung open, and Hana came back out. Her steps were soft, her tray steady, her expression calm. But Adrian noticed something new now. A silence in her eyes that wasn't fear, but experience. A woman who had seen more than she ever said. She stopped at his table. Not rushed, not intimidated. Her tone was gentle, professional. Your dish will be ready soon, sir. She started to step away, but Adrian whispered her name without thinking. Hana. She paused, turned slowly. Yes, sir. He swallowed, something he wasn't used to doing. Why do you speak my family's language? Her eyes softened, but not with warmth. With understanding. With distance. The world is small, she said quietly. Much smaller than people with power think. That's not an answer, he whispered. She lifted an eyebrow. It's the one you need. His assistant looked like he might faint. Adrian exhaled unsteadily. Fine. Then tell me this. Who taught you that dialect? Hana hesitated, then did something he didn't expect. She sat down. Not nervously, not boldly, just gracefully. Sir, she said softly. Why does it matter so much that someone like me speaks it? Adrian stiffened. Because it's exclusive, she finished for him. Reserved? Elite. Her tone wasn't mocking, just honest. You think respect is something people earn by status, she continued. But languages, real languages, belong to human hearts, not bank accounts. He stared at her, unable to argue, unable to process. Her words were simple, but they felt like truths he had spent his life avoiding. Hana continued quietly. You judged me before hearing a single word from me, before learning anything about me. I didn't, he started. You did, she said calmly. No anger, no insult. Just truth. He closed his mouth. She leaned slightly closer. You wanted to know how I speak your language? The answer is simple. He held his breath. I lived in your country longer than you did. His eyes widened. What? Hana nodded softly. I grew up there. Studied there. My mother was a language professor. My father worked with cultural researchers. I didn't just learn the language. Her voice warmed with memory. I lived in it. Adrian felt the world tilt under his feet. This waitress, this woman he dismissed as low class moments earlier, had lived closer to his heritage than he ever had. Why are you here? He whispered. In a place like this? Working like this? Pain flickered through her eyes, brief, but sharp enough to cut him. Life changes, she said quietly. Sometimes faster than people can keep up with. He didn't miss the sadness tucked behind her words. Did something happen? She stood again slowly. That's not your concern, sir. But he reached out instinctively. Not to grab her, just to stop her from walking away again. Hana, please. The please shocked them both. She blinked. The first sign she wasn't as unshakable as she appeared. But she recovered quickly, offering a soft, polite smile. Your food will be ready in a moment. Then she turned and walked away, leaving Adrian staring after her, with a heart beating unevenly, and a truth he couldn't escape. He had insulted the only person in the room who understood him, in a way nobody else ever had. The restaurant didn't feel the same anymore. The lights seemed dimmer, the sounds sharper, the air heavier. But none of that came from the room. It all came from Adrian. His mind kept circling the same questions. How did she end up here? What happened to her family? What forced someone so educated, so fluent, so dignified into waiting tables? His assistant whispered nervously. Sir, should I cancel your next meetings? Adrian didn't look away from the kitchen door Hana disappeared behind. Yes, he said quietly. Cancel everything. The assistant blinked. Everything. Adrian nodded slowly. I'm not leaving yet. The assistant stepped back, confused but too afraid to question him. A moment later, Hana stepped out again carrying another tray, this time for a different table. She moved gracefully, as if every step had been practiced, but her eyes carried tiny shadows of the past she hadn't shared. Adrian watched her carefully, noticing things he didn't see before. The way she scanned the room out of habit, like someone who used to watch for more dangerous things than customers snapping fingers. The way she spoke politely but stayed guarded, like someone who had learned to build walls quietly, not loudly. The way she smiled gently, never deeply, like someone who had lost something she couldn't say aloud. He had misjudged her. Completely. When she finally returned to his table with his food, she placed it down without a hint of nervousness. "Your salmon, sir." "Thank you," he said quietly. She paused, because that was the first human thing he'd said all night. "You're welcome," she replied softly. He hesitated before asking, "Hana, will you sit with me for a moment?" She blinked. "Sir, I'm working." "I know," he whispered, "but I'm trying to understand something." She tilted her head, curious but cautious. "Understand what?" He met her eyes, really met them. "How someone like you ended up here." Her breath hitched, just slightly, and she looked away. "That's not a question you ask a stranger." "You're not a stranger," Adrian said softly. "Not anymore." She let out a faint, startled laugh, then shook her head. "You don't know me, sir." "I want to," he said, surprising even himself with the sincerity in his tone. Hana swallowed. Her fingers tightened around her notepad. Finally, she sat at the edge of the chair. Not relaxed, not open, but enough to say she wasn't running away. "All right," she whispered. "Ask." Adrian took a slow breath. "Why did you leave my country?" A shadow crossed her face. "Because staying wasn't safe anymore." His heart dropped. "What happened?" "Someone powerful made a promise," she said quietly. "A promise to destroy everything my family built. My parents were scholars, researchers. They uncovered truths some people wanted buried." Adrian's stomach twisted. His family, his own father, was one of the most powerful people in that region. Hana continued. "When threats started coming in, we moved. But we didn't make it far enough." Her voice cracked, the smallest fracture. "I lost them 2 years ago." Adrian's breath stilled. He whispered, "Hana, I'm so sorry." She nodded once, swallowing emotion she didn't want to show. "I survived. That's enough." Adrian shook his head gently. "No, that's not enough. You deserve more." She looked at him, surprised. "I didn't expect someone like you to say that," she admitted. "From the moment you walked in, you made it clear you didn't see me." His shame burned deeply. "I judged you," he said. "Because of your job. Because of your uniform. Because I was taught that people who serve are beneath those who lead." Her expression softened, not forgiving him yet, but understanding him more than he expected. "And now?" she asked quietly. "Now," Adrian whispered, "I see a woman with more strength and dignity than anyone at the top of my company." She blinked slowly. His assistant, standing a few feet away, stared in disbelief. He had never heard Adrian speak to anyone this way. But Hana didn't melt, didn't smile. She simply breathed, deeply, carefully, as if sorting through the sincerity in his voice. Before she could speak again, a group of wealthy customers, loud, entitled, the usual type, waved her over aggressively. "Hey, waitress, we've been waiting." Hana stood immediately, but Adrian got there first. He didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He simply walked to their table with a calmness that felt terrifying. "She'll be there in a moment," he said evenly. "But she's talking with me now." One man scoffed. "Who the hell are you two?" Adrian reached into his suit jacket and pulled out a black metal card, the kind only 5 CEOs in the city carried. Their faces drained of color. "Adrian Vale," he said softly, "owner of the building you're standing in, and the sponsor of every investor you're trying to impress tonight." Silence. Absolute silence. "So," Adrian continued, "if you speak to her like she's beneath you again, you'll spend the rest of your career trying to crawl back to your current salary." They nodded frantically. He didn't look at them again. He walked back to Hana, who stood frozen. Not scared, not overwhelmed, just stunned. "Why did you do that?" she whispered. "Because respect isn't optional," he said softly. "And you deserve it more than anyone here." Her eyes glistened, the first real crack in her composure. But she didn't cry. She steadied herself again. "You're not the man I thought you were," she whispered. He took a slow step closer. "And you're so much more than the woman I assumed you were." For a moment, silence wrapped around them, warm, fragile, honest. Then Hana whispered a single sentence in his native language, soft as a prayer, strong as truth. Shayad aapko basg shi any sahi tor par bolnasikaya nahitha. Maybe no one ever taught you how to speak kindly. Adrian felt that in his chest. And he knew, without a doubt, that this waitress, this woman whose past held more pain than he could imagine, was about to change the direction of his entire life. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Hana stood there with her arms gently folded, not defensive, just holding herself steady. Adrian stood across from her, shoulders lowered for the first time all night, as if a weight he didn't know he carried was finally slipping off. The restaurant hummed softly around them, clinking plates, soft music, murmured conversations. But between them, there was silence that felt like truth being born. Hana, Adrian said softly, you have every reason to hate me. She shook her head slowly. You don't hate people who act out of ignorance, she said. You teach them. He swallowed. No one in his life had ever spoken to him like that, with gentleness and firmness woven together like a single thread. You taught me more in 1 hour, he whispered, than I've been taught in 30 years. She looked down, her voice quiet. You were never unteachable, just unchallenged. His chest tightened. He wasn't used to hearing truths delivered so softly. He stepped closer, careful not to invade her space. Hana, he said, I want to ask something. And please know, I'm asking as a man, not as a CEO. She lifted her eyes. Why are you really here? He whispered. Her lips parted, then closed. She took a long breath, the kind someone takes before breaking open. I needed a safe place, she said quietly. Somewhere no one knew my last name. Somewhere I could breathe for a while, without being hunted by the past. He flinched. Hunted. Her voice trembled for the first time. The people who came after my parents, they didn't stop. They wanted everything my family documented. Research, documents, proof of corruption. We refused to give it. And when we moved, they followed. Adrian's fingers curled. Are you saying they? Yes, she whispered. They took everything. She looked away, tears at the edges of her lashes but refusing to fall. I left the country to stay alive. Adrian closed his eyes slowly. The arrogance he'd walked in with felt sickening now. Hana, he murmured. I'm so deeply sorry. She shook her head. You didn't know? No, he said firmly. But I treated you like someone who didn't matter. Her voice softened. You treated me like someone you didn't understand. That's different. He opened his eyes and saw her differently now. Not just a waitress. Not just a woman with a secret language. A survivor. A fighter. Someone who lost everything, yet carried herself like she had lost nothing. How do you keep going? He whispered. She smiled. A fragile, honest smile. I keep going, she said. Because if I fall apart, then the world wins. Adrian's throat tightened. You didn't just shock me tonight, he said. You humbled me. She studied him quietly, not rushing to answer. Then she whispered, and now that you see me, what happens next? He stepped closer, slowly, respectfully. I want to help you, Adrian said. Not out of guilt, not as payment, but because someone like you deserves more than this. Her eyes widened. Help me how? He took a breath. I want to offer you a position at my company. Not as staff, not as an assistant. Something worthy of your intelligence, your language skills, your resilience, your education. She blinked, stunned. You do that for me? Of course, he said quietly. You've already done more for me without even trying. She whispered, what did I do? You taught me how to speak again, he said. How to listen, how to see people. You reminded me of the man I wanted to be, not the one the world pushed me into. Her lips parted. Adrian continued softly. I can protect you. I can give you a new start. A future. Safety. Purpose. A single tear escaped the corner of her eye. She wiped it quickly, embarrassed. I don't want pity, she whispered. It's not pity, he said. It's recognition. Hana stared at him for a long moment. Then she breathed out a trembling laugh. You know, she said softly. I always thought I'd have to carry my story alone forever. You won't, he whispered. She bit her lip. You believe me? Adrian stepped forward, gently placing his hand over hers on the table. I understand you, he said softly. And that's more powerful than belief. She didn't pull away. Not this time. A soft warmth settled between them, a fragile bond forming from places neither expected. Hana looked into his eyes. Then yes, she whispered. I'll take the chance you're offering. Relief washed over him. Sharp, overwhelming, and impossibly pure. He squeezed her hand gently. You won't regret it. She smiled through quiet tears. Maybe, she whispered, but for the first time in a long time, I feel safe. And in that small moment, in a noisy restaurant, under cheap ceiling lights, a billionaire and a waitress shared the one thing neither had felt in years. Hope. If this story touched your heart, share it. Because kindness doesn't always wear a smile, and heroes don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes, they walk in covered in dust, carrying stories that could change your heart forever.